Today we're going to talk about water below your pond liner, biofilm in the pond, and training your koi fish. Hey, welcome to the show today. We're gonna kick it right off with a question from 57 Chevy 350 off of YouTube. And this question has come at me a couple different times recently. I think it's really interesting. He wants to know if he is in an area with a high water table or he gets a lot of rain, he's worried about water being below the liner and what should he do about it. If you get water below the liner, even if you have rock and gravel in the pond acting as a ballast holding everything down, if you get enough water below the liner, it will actually bubble that up. Imagine it's called hydrostatic pressure. You get water below there, you get some gases built up, and the water could actually raise the pond liner up to where it hits the surface of the water. It looks like a well is breaching out of the middle of the pond. It does happen. So it's an extremely good question, and I don't run into it very often here in Southern California because, of course, we are in a drought. We don't have a lot of water, but I specifically have one pond where there's a large hillside and it gets irrigation. The irrigation eventually works its way down into that area and we have a pond right down at the bottom of it. What we do in situations like that is we essentially put a French drain below the pond. So imagine that, let's say you have a 3-foot deep pond. We would dig down to a 4-foot depth and we would dig a 12 by 12 trench. We'd put a French drain into that trench and fill it with gravel. And like just a gravel for behind walls and stuff. Not expensive ornamental gravel. We'll fill that with gravel around the French drain, and that French drain would run outside of the pond. And then in some cases, I can run that to daylight. If I have another slope going away, I can send the water off from underneath the liner. If you're in a flat backyard, a flat area, you might have to put in a stand pipe with a pump down in there. You can use a culvert pipe. Then you put a pump with a flotation device on there. And then when the water builds below the pond liner, it will travel across the floor of the pond through the French drain and into that culvert pipe where you have the sump pump, and then it will pump the water to somewhere else in your landscape. So that's how we handle water below the liner. So if you are in an area that has a high water table, you might need to make those provisions right from the get-go before you build the pond. If you run into water below the liner, if you have that experience with the bubbling happening in an area where you don't have a high water table, it's a strong possibility you have a leak in the pond and the water's building up behind the liner. So you'd want to go through the troubleshooting leak processes. And of course, we've talked about that in a different Ask the Pond Digger show. So hope that answers your question, 57 Chevy 350. I'm gonna move right on to the next one. This one came from Bao Tran when I was up in Northern California and I visited his property in San Jose. And as I was evaluating his pond and giving him tips and tricks on how to make his pond balance better, I noticed that the pond walls in his pond were extremely clean. They just looked like the pond was brand new. And we had a decent amount of sun on the pond, and the pond was about 6 months old when I saw it. So I was communicating and asking him a lot of questions so I could get information from him. I said, wow, the pond walls are so clean. How is that happening? What's going on with the pond walls? And he said, well, I'm scrubbing them every week. Is that okay? So the question really is it okay for me to scrub my pond walls? And I'm gonna tell you what I told Bao Tran. The biofilm that is growing in the pond is extremely important to the overall ecosystem of the pond. Whether you have an ecosystem pond or a dedicated koi pond, the biofilm that begins to happen inside the pond is incredibly important to the overall balance of the entire pond. So you can build a real fancy dedicated koi pond with UVs and moving bed filters and settlement tanks and bottom drains and air pumps and all this stuff. You're not gonna have that pond turn like gin clear. You hear about a pond that has gin clear water. It's not gonna turn gin clear until that biofilm really kicks into place. The biofilm is really important to everything and it helps the water clarity just really balance out. Imagine all the walls in the pond become part of the life support system for the pond. So if you're scrubbing them, you're like hindering that. And I could tell more than the walls were clean, his pond water just wasn't really poppy. And he had UVs and bottom drains and mechanical filters and settlement tanks. He had all the stuff. He had all the success components. He had all the stuff to make the recipe for a really clear pond. So if you have an ecosystem pond, a lot of times they'll drain the pond down and pressure wash all the rocks. When you do that pressure washing, you're knocking off all that valuable biofilm that the pond has made and matured. So in the biofilm, you're having all this bacteria that starts to happen on that wall. So it's really important as a complete component to it. So I would encourage you to leave the biofilm alone. We don't want long string algae growing off the walls and so forth, which you might get in a brand new pond for the first season or two, but as the pond matures, just trust me, it's gonna go away and that stuff's gonna get toned down, and then your pond's gonna pop that gin clear like we're talking about. I'm gonna move on to the last question of the day from Dylan Stevenson. And he's a young guy, and I've met him on some of the stuff on the Facebook and stuff. And he has a question about training his koi. Now, really what happens is he wants the fish to come and eat out of his hand. I think he's young into ponds. He's still getting his feet wet in the hobby. And it's a great place to be. It's really fun to be first getting into it again. But his fish are still shy and they're not coming up to him, and he wants to know, what do I have to do to get these koi to come and eat out of my hand? And let me give Dylan and the rest of you guys some advice if you have a new pond and the fish aren't coming to you yet. I would say, Dylan, look, you need to change up your food a little bit. You want to, if you have a bag of food that you're using and they're just not coming to it, maybe they don't like the flavor of it, maybe they don't like the smell of it. What I would do is I would entice them with 3 or 4 different types of food. So get a couple different kinds of food, and then here's the real trick. You want to get some freeze-dried krill or freeze-dried plankton, and you want to get some of that and break it up and mix all these koi flavors together. The krill, it smells really good to the koi, and they're gonna really love it. So when you have this mixture of all this food in there, you're giving them a lot of sense, a lot of sensory activity is gonna happen because they're gonna smell all the different flavors that are going on. If they don't come up right to that, then my next trick I'm gonna tell you is you wanna put a bank of water hyacinths in the pond to where they can kind of hide below the hyacinths and they can't really see you. They can kind of just peek at you, and you throw all that delicious food, all those different flavors on this side. Your skimmer's over here. You can shut the skimmer off. You can shut the air off if you want to. Throw that food in there where it's floating right next to the hyacinths, and they're gonna come up and they're gonna taste it, okay? And they're gonna fall in love with all those different flavors that you're putting in there. And you don't wanna throw in a lot at once, just a little bit at a time, so they start to get that little frenzy happening like you see. And then they're gonna come up and they're gonna get the flavor of that food. And sooner or later, they're gonna realize that it's you that's doing it, and they're gonna start to lose their fear of being around you. Another tip that I can give you is you wanna feed at the same time every day. You want to feed if it's in the morning or the night, or morning and night, I would suggest, depends on the time of year and how cold the water is. But if you feed them a little bit at the same time every day, let's say, before you go to school and when you get home from school, or before, it starts to get dark, and you get them into that routine, they're going to be waiting for you when it's time. They're going to have that time clock going, and they're going to be excited about eating that food. So I think that's the best thing I can do to get you to stop your fish being afraid of you, and they can come and eat right out of your hand. Okay, I'm gonna finish right now with the question of the day for you guys. I wanna know, what is your Instagram username? I want you to put your Instagram username in the comments down below so I can get on there and I can check you guys out. I can see pictures of your koi and your pond and maybe your dogs, maybe you and your family. I wanna get to know you guys a little bit better. And do me a favor, if you don't have a lot of pictures of your pond on your Instagram thing, what I want to do is, I mean, on YouTube, I can't see your pond very much. I can't see pictures of different things. I suppose you could send me videos, but I think a lot more people are using Instagram to communicate and share pictures and stuff. So if you can take a picture of your pond or your fish or your filtration, and then you hashtag Ask the Pond Digger, I'll be able to find all those pictures of your pond, and it would really be enjoyable for me to check your guys' stuff out. So please put your username handle right down in the comments section down here so I can come and see you. And until next time, I'm Eric Triplett, the Pond Digger, and I hope you dig ponds as much as I do.